Hello everyone, welcome to Claret and Booze. My name's Nick and this is my daily ramble. A bit late, we had a late one last night, didn't we? I don't know if you caught the show. We had the live phone in with myself, Gary, and Nigel Khan. Got a little bit fiery in the chat and the debate, as I always will do. And grateful for Nigel to sort of come on and be brave enough to offer his point of view at times like this, because look, emotions are running high, and the stance that Nigel is taking, you know, you got a fair play. You know, he sticks to his guns, and that was me 3 months ago. So I was the one being shot down. So I know how it feels. But look, the fact of the matter is, I don't agree with that narrative, and I don't think it is a narrative. It's how Nigel feels. But you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But I can't. I'm struggling to tolerate it at the moment, because I believe wholeheartedly in what I'm saying, and I'm desperately worried about West Ham. But anyway, look, if you're new to the channel, why not subscribe and hit that bell notification button to alert you when we're going to be on. And if you do somehow enjoy this show, then please drop a like on it, because it does really help us. So look, I'm going to try and reflect on yesterday's game in a little bit more of a rational way. Although I don't think I was irrational yesterday, I still kind of I wholeheartedly back up everything I was saying. You know, the game, and analysing the goals that we conceded now, I felt there were some defensive errors while I was watching it, but I've since watched the game back, and it was sloppy. They scored 2 good goals, Leeds, from open play. You know, they did what we're unable to do, and that's create fast-flowing passing moves, exposing the opposition's defensive weaknesses, and carve us open. They did that on a few occasions. They only scored 2 of them, 2 good goals. I thought Dawson was at fault for both of them. I thought he was caught ball watching, and he was getting drawn out of position. And you know, I don't think the midfield really helped. I thought we kind of players were ghosting past us on those occasions where they did create those chances. I thought Declan Rice had a better game, but there were times in that game, in that match, in key moments where they scored, where he was kind of left wanting a little bit, I think. Yeah, so again, there were defensive errors. The team selection was just absolutely bizarre. The inclusion, I'm referring to the inclusion of Paqueta. It's not Paqueta, of Tilo Kehrer, because I called it before the game, called it during the game, called it at half time, especially after what we just witnessed at half time. I had no idea that Moyes was going to send Kehrer back out again after what was probably one of the worst 45 minutes you'll ever see from a professional player. It was awful. You got a player who's obviously lacking confidence at the moment. I'm not going to come down on him too hard. I thought he looked good when he first came into the club, but then he's been used at sort of left centre back, right centre back. He's been used in a 2, a 3. He's been used at right back, and he's been getting progressively worse in each case. And then David Moyes sees it fit to go and shift him out to left back, which was just absolute madness. Absolute madness. He never looked comfortable. You know, he doesn't really use his right side at all. He doesn't really think left-sided. He doesn't really, you know, he's a right-sided player. So to use him on the left was mad, especially when you consider we had Cresswell on the bench. We had Emerson on the bench, who's David Moyes' big signing in the summer to sort of cover for Cresswell. You know, he didn't use him. And he got Ben Johnson, who we know that can operate well there. He's played, if anything, Ben Johnson's best games for us have probably come at left-back, which is weird. So, yeah, I found that really weird, and I found it really odd that he didn't rectify that at half-time. I get the feeling that I think he probably would have if we'd have gone in at 1-0 down. But because we went in and it was all square, he probably was happy with it. You know, he didn't want to tinker. And then straight after the break, obviously, we come out and Leeds sloppy defending. You know, they just handed Skamaka a bit of a gift. He still had a lot to do. You know, he just kind of let the ball roll past him, and a beautiful strike, just stroked the ball into the corner. Really, really good effort. But yeah, that was a bit of a gift. And from that point on, we were in the ascendancy. Leeds looked shaken. That was probably our best period of the game, I think, after that. You know, probably for that sort of 10, 15-minute period after that game, I felt like there was only one team that was going to win that, and it was going to be us. And then for whatever reason, David Moyes made the change. He made the change with Mikel Antonio up front. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, look, it's only a like for like sub. Well, it's not. It's what that signifies. When you take off a player like Skamaka, who is a forward player that sits in the middle is kind of a pivot. He links play. He's you for someone like Antonio. All that says is we're gonna go to a counter attacking game. We're gonna regress and we're gonna try and do what was working a year ago, and we're gonna just start aiming balls forward because we're expecting Leeds to come at us. We're gonna invite them on. We're gonna try and sit back and defend, even though we've proved in recent months that we can't defend. And we're going to try and hit them on a counter attack. That's what we're going to try and do. And within 5 minutes, we'd paid the price. We'd paid the price for it. They managed to sort of tuck away one of the goals that they'd one of the many chances that they created against us. And there was a lot. They created a lot of chances, and from that point on, it was one-way traffic. Really, a little bit later on, he made the other changes, which I thought were a bit weird. Fair enough. You could argue Benny for Paquette as an almost like for like. Benny's he's gonna get forward, but Benny needs other players like Fornals and Paqueta to link with to actually be really effective. I believe. You want Benny on with those players, but to take Fornals and Paqueta off, two players who I thought had a good game. Yes, I know Fornals' shooting was woeful, but he didn't play bad. He played really well. His work rate was brilliant. I've seen him getting hammered on social media. I don't fucking subscribe to that at all. I was relieved to see Fornals back in there. He's a positive player. He plays the ball forward, and yes, fair enough. He didn't have his shooting boots on. He ain't been in the team for ages. That was his first start since early October. But like I say, he's a really positive player. He drives us on, and he was key, I think, to us sort of playing. We played better yesterday. We did. It was nowhere near enough, but it was a better performance. And to take them off when it was already going bad, I just don't know what he expected. And to bring Downs on as well, then all you're doing is you're just signalling to the Leeds bench, we're going to sit back. Go on, let's see what you've got. So for 10 minutes to 15 minutes at the end of the game, it was all one-way traffic, really. Fabianski pulled off a few good saves, but to be quite honest, he pulled off a few good saves. But the two goals that Leeds scored, I think a different keeper might have done a little bit better. I thought his positioning was off with both of them, particularly the second one. His positioning weren't right. He didn't. I don't think his reactions were particularly great with the Rodrigo goal. I think a better keeper probably gets a hand to it, potentially saves it. He doesn't. But then what Fabs does do is every now and then he'll pull out a worldy save, and he did that right at the end. He saved David Moyes' job by all accounts, because according to Nigel, who does talk to people that are in communication with the club, the narrative had changed before that game, and it was looking likely that if Moyes had lost that game, he probably would have gone. So that Fabianski save has got us a point and has saved David Moyes' job. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's a personal thing for you. For me, from that game, I wanted us to win. I don't want us to be in a relegation battle at all. It's scaring me. I wanted us to win, but if we weren't going to win, I would have, and a loss would have meant that David Moyes went. I've got to be honest with you. If it weren't, I would have rather we lost as opposed to draw. And I'm going to say that openly and honestly now, because the draw secured David Moyes in his job. My rationale for saying that is because I think that David Moyes is going to take us down. He is, and that draw has kept him in that job for 2 or 3 more games. Now, I don't ever want to see us lose a game. I don't. It makes my skin crawl. I hate it. But in the context of things, I just felt deflated. It was the worst possible result, a draw, because it's not enough for West Ham, but it was just enough for David Moyes. Just enough. It's not enough for us. We're in a situation now after 18 games where we've got 15 points, and even if David Moyes goes and wins the next game against Wolves, which he won't, I'm pretty certain that he won't, because Wolves are starting to fight now. They're a really good team, far better than the Leeds team that we played yesterday. And I'm not criticising Leeds and calling them shit. I admire the way that Leeds play. They play good, fearless football. They do, but they're weak defensively. They're down there for a reason at the moment. When you look at them player for player for what they've got, I don't think Leeds are in a false position. I think West Ham are. We should be beating Leeds. I think Wolves are also in a false position, but they made their change and they're starting to put in better performances. They're looking more and more solid every week. They was unlucky last night against Aston Villa as well, who pulled it back. Otherwise, it'd have been us in the bottom 3 and not them. But that's the big one. against Wolves. And again, we're going to be saying the same thing again. You know, last chance saloon, last game. You know, how long are we going to be saying this for? But ultimately, what that means is that even if we were to win against Wolves, which I don't think is going to happen, we can only get 18 points in 19 games. And Pellegrini was sacked with 19 points from 19 games. You know, he was sacked. So David Moyes can't better the first half of the season points to games ratio that Pellegrini was sacked for. He can't do that. You know, we're going to be 1 point worse off. We've won 4 games out of 18 now. 4 games out of 18, and he's still in a job. He spent 175 million in the summer, and we've won 4 games in 18. Now, people can harp on about, oh, it's a transition season, it's this, it's that. This isn't a transition season. This is a fucking failure. This is an outright failure, what we're seeing here. And yes, there were some positives that we could take from yesterday's game. There were. It was a lot of effort shown from the players, a lot of fight. We was in it, even though tactically we regressed, the players didn't stop trying. The commitment was there right until the end, but they are hamstrung by David Moyes' tactics. I've been saying it for a long time. And those players are too good to be where they are. They're too good to be where they are. And I don't know what the chairman's thinking at the moment. I don't. I know, obviously, you know, with the passing away of David Gold, that could put things off a little bit more. But this has been building for weeks and months. It really has. And I can't wrap my head around while we're still in this situation, while I'm still talking about this. I don't know where it's going to end. I think ultimately I'm certain David Moyes is going to get the sack. But ultimately, I think by the time he does get the sack, it's going to be too late if he's here beyond the Wolves and Everton game. Because if he gets sacked after Wolves and Everton, it's going to be because he hasn't got anything out of them. So that would be 20 points. That would be 15 to 16 points from 20 games, leaving us with 18 games left. And from those 18 games, we're going to have to win 9 of them to surpass the 40-point mark. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to win 9 of the remaining 18 games. And 8 of those 18 games are against the Big 7 with Newcastle, because we've got to play Newcastle twice. And we don't do well against them. We haven't beat anybody of note for the last year. So yes, anything can happen. That point yesterday could prove to be a catalyst. We could theoretically go on a little winning run now. We could do. But going based on the trend of what we've seen for the last year, not just this season either, even though this half a season now is bad enough, I just don't see it happening. We've had dead cat bounces before with David Moyes. We had it after Everton when we got kind of lucky results against the likes of Fulham. We've already seen it. We've already seen it. So, and I predicted at that point, you know, after the Everton game, I said he probably will get some results because look, he can get results against the really shit teams. He can do, but typically he doesn't get. We're not getting results against, like I said, anybody of any worth at the moment. We're just not. So when you think about that, if you remove those eight games from the 18, that leaves us with 10. So we'd need to get 9 wins from 10. Embedded in that 10, you've got Brighton. You've got Brentford. You've got Fulham, who this time when we face them, they'll probably have Mitrovic. I just don't know where the points are going to come from. This is the thing. It just seems absolutely bizarre. And you could argue that because of the effort that the players showed yesterday, that look, David Moyes clearly hasn't lost the changing room. Whatever you think, it doesn't matter. It's not enough. Just because the players are playing and they're trying, tactically, we're getting it wrong. You can't have a manager that is. You've got to be brave. I can understand being nervous, but he was winning. He was in front, and then he just slammed the handbrake on. He just pulled the handbrake up. He stopped it dead. We should have come away from that with all 3 points, and there is your reason. He is the reason why we're going to struggle. And I do think that by the time they do eventually get rid of him, we're going to be in such a state, a far worse state than what we were when David Moyes took us over. I just don't think we're going to get saved. I don't. I think we've missed the boat. I do. I'm sticking by it. I'm terrified. I think that point against Leeds could ultimately be the point. That save from Fabianski could be the save that sends us down. And I know that sounds dramatic. I know it does. But I can't help it. It's how I feel. It's genuinely how I feel. And I pray to God that I'm wrong, and I pray to God that I'm a meme for saying this in a few weeks' time. But that's genuinely how I feel. I've lost all hope that the board are going to do the right thing, because they haven't done up to this point, and it just defies belief that they haven't. It really does. Any other club, after a manager had spent 175 million and had the run that he's just had, we would not be having this conversation. They'd be gone. Any manager, any club, they'd be gone. So I don't know. I don't really know what to say anymore. But let me know what your thoughts are anyway. Obviously, we've got the FA Cup coming up at the weekend. A game where you can't. It's probably going to be better for us if we bail out of it. Not that it's our choice, because we couldn't beat Brentford at home. So I don't think it's our choice whether we beat them or not. I think if they want to win that, they win, especially at home. It's not. But I don't think it would be a bad thing for us to bail out. Like I say, even if we didn't want to bail out, I think that they would dispatch us anyway, because I just think that they are a better football team than us. Not player for player, but they are a better team. So yeah, we've got that one. Then we've got the Wolves game to look forward to. But we're going to be talking about the same stuff again. Is it his last game? Blah 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 blah. I mean, fuck me. It is so dull now. It is, and at some point, something will change in the next few weeks. You know, he's either going to get the results that he needs against Wolves and Everton. If he gets those two results against Wolves and Everton, and we pull away from the bottom three, then I'll shut up until the summer about it, because there's no way that it'll go then. So there's no point even talking about it. I will still be definitively Moyes out. I couldn't be more Moyes out, but I don't want us to get relegated. If it looks like he can keep us up, then there's no point even talking about them sacking him until the summer, because they're just not going to. So it just becomes a moot point. There's no point talking about it. I'm driving myself mad. So yeah, he's either going to mess up the next two games like he's messed up the last 18 on the whole, or he's going to manage to claw something out of them and he'll keep his job for the rest of the season. I don't know. Personally, I just want him. I want him gone. I want to talk about something different. I want to start looking forward to me football again. But look, anyway, that's it from me. I'm going to stop moaning now. Let me know what your thoughts were. If you enjoyed the show, please drop a like on it. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit the bell notification icon. And we will see you. I think Gary will probably be back tomorrow for a ramble. All right then? Come you irons.